Hi there, welcome to Tarot Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Libra energy, and like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Libra energy, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Libra energy. We all have our free will and we kind of battle within ourselves. In our more hopeful, believing, loving nature, we might like to do life a little differently, but then that means we have to step out of our comfort zone. And then our shadowy nature of like fear and insecurity or pride or ego or something, um, can hold us back from living our life that way. So some people could be battling within themselves. Other people are moving forward in life differently. We live life a certain way, we view life a certain way, and then we're kind of ready to move on in life a little differently, face our fears, grow up, mature ourselves, heal, put things in perspective, have a little more hope and faith and belief. So while some people could be moving forward, having learned some lessons in life, maybe there's some other people in the world, in their life, that they in turn could feel are a little more repeating an old pattern or kind of immature, shadowy in some type of way, which our shadow nature can be our fear, our insecurity, our pride, our ego, our laziness, our self-centeredness, our self-indulgent nature, not wanting to have to grow up, or we all know different people. You could know people that you think and could be more, haven't learned some of the life lessons that you've learned. And they in turn could know some people that they think haven't learned some lessons they've learned. And, we're all kind of looking for people who are kind of more on the same page as we are. It's just like being age 15 or 18 or 21 or 25. Is everybody okay living their life the way they live it? Yeah, they can live their life any way they want, but you're kind of going to want to hang out with people who seem to kind of be on the same emotional maturity level as you. And Libra energy, I view it as the King of Swords. It's also the Justice card. It's the 2 and the 3 and the 4 of Swords. Have we healed from past pain and heartbreak? Do we treat other people the way we like to be treated? Are we just and fair? Do we stand up for truth and love? Or are we a little more self-protective and defensive and have our own ideas of what we think is just and fair? So let's go see what's going on in Libra energy, which could be more something that particularly people who are Libra sun signs or have significant Libra placements in their chart are dealing with, but we all kind of deal with Libra energy, and we're all looking to find people who are kind of on the same page as us. So, in the top row, we have the Page of Wands, and in the bottom row, we have the Emperor. I view the Emperor as Aries energy, which is fire sign energy. The Page of Wands can represent all three of the fire sign energies, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. In our worldly nature, which is what the bottom row can represent also, we can all be a little bit more about ourselves because Aries energy is about the self. We can want to look like a boss in the world. We could like to control other people. We could be more about ourselves, or we're just still kind of more fired up about the world. Because we grow up in the world, there's all these things we want to go indulge in and invest in and manifest in our life. And we could kind of be caught up in that. In tarot, they refer to it as being in your south node. And then kind of later in your life, after you kind of learned these lessons in life, and high vibe emperor is where you have learned all these lessons in life. So the people who made these different choices in their life, because the emperor is also about making decisions, they have learned these lessons in life, and they kind of got out of their more worldly, egoic, shadowy nature, and now they're kind of aligned with their more hopeful, believing nature, and not as concerned and wrapped up in themselves or these things of the world. It's kind of like being inspired to look at life differently. We can all be caught up in like money and status and ego and image and indulgence, and we can go do those things because we're kind of told by the world that if you go do those things, you'll be happy. And then we can kind of be confused. Down here, we have the Seven of Pentacles, which can be I invested in a way of living life because of how I viewed life. And I could have been defensive to change because I think I'm the boss and I think I'm smart. Pride comes before the fall. And so we keep investing in these certain things. And we could be defensive to listening to our more hopeful, believing, loving nature, because that does require in the death card that we quit making our life more about ourselves or these things of the world. And maybe up here in the top row, we have the Three of Swords, which is Libra energy, which Libra is represented by the scales of justice. That, it's not just more about me. It's not just the most important thing is these things of the world. It's about having more balance in my life. And we could have all been more tipped out of balance, making our life about some of these things of the world, instead of being more balanced within ourselves and realizing, do I want some of these things of the world? Yes, I do. I'm a human being. I live in the world. I would like some stability, security. I'd like to enjoy some of the finer things in life. But I could have lost touch with kind of my more hopeful, believing nature. And kind of then you kind of wonder, why am I not? Because we can all see people in the world who seem to have that more hopeful, believing spirit, don't seem to be tipped out of balance, seem to have more balance in their life, where they do have some of these things of the world, but they also, are able to work together with others in a just and fair way in high vibe Libra energy, treating other people the way they like to be treated, being in relationships with people who treat them in a just and fair way. Who are we and what are we investing our time, energy, effort, thoughts, and emotions into? Are we investing in things within us that are kind of keep us tipped out of balance? Do we focus more on other people who are more tipped out of balance? Are we trying to change other people? How about we wish people peace in the Page of Cups? You know what? I'm not going to try to change people. If the truth is, in the Knight of Swords, that some people aren't on the same page as you, how about I wish you peace? I see the truth, that your truth is different than my truth. What drives and motivates you, certain traits and characteristics you might have that maybe I don't really like. I'm kind of defensive to moving forward with people in death energy, people who aren't very loving, are maybe a little more bossy or controlling, or more about themselves, or more about ego and image and money and materialism. It's like, what about a balance? Can't we have balance? And some people are like, nope, that's not my truth. I don't want to do balance. I don't want to do just and fair. I don't want to treat you the way you treat me. I don't want to treat people the way that I like to be treated. It is supposed to be more about me. Or I just am more about these things of the world. They're what's more important to me than love. And then some people in their life tell them in the death card that I'm leaving and I'm going to move forward because you don't seem to want to make a decision to move forward with me. And high vibe death card is about, let's detach from an old way of thinking or believing or old foundations in our life to move forward. Have a new beginning in hope and faith and belief and love to get the justice we deserve. And we can always have people in our life that want us to move forward with them. They could be lovely people, but is that our truth? There could be people in the world that are telling people, you should come with me. You should detach in the past. You should listen to me. You should move forward with me. And they could be lovely people, but, we know all sorts of people in the world, and we can have different people we meet, different people who meet us, and they're like, we should be friends. We should hang out. We should date. We should get married. And we, to some people, are like, I'm just not feeling it. And some of those people to us are saying, I'm just not feeling it. It has to be the right it has to be right for both people, right? So there could be some people who don't want to move forward in life differently. They might not, high vibe emperor, they might not want to grow up. They might have some lessons they need to learn, but maybe they'd have to put an end to their defensive nature. Or shadowy Scorpio, which is water sign energy, but in shadow, it can be, I like to keep my emotions buried beneath the surface. I like to try to stay in control of my more emotional nature. And, you know, we are emotionally complex human beings. I find it confusing. I prefer to not really invest in them that much. And I prefer to align with being more practical, maybe living more from my mind than my heart. And that then is kind of moving forward in a little bit more emotionally shallow, superficial way. Again, could be living more from their mind than their heart. Shadowy people could reject harnessing this energy in a more high vibe way. And they don't want people to know that they could harness it in a more shadowy way. The Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords and the Knight of Swords are both Gemini. No. Is that right? No. Well, I do view that as Gemini. What is Aquarius? Aquarius is the Queen of Swords. Oh, that's right. Yep. Okay. Gemini energy. These are both Gemini energy, is how I view them. And Gemini energy has to do with our free will nature. It's a dualistic sign where we have the free will to choose to build our life more from a foundation of hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in love. Or we can free willingly choose to, I choose to align with my more worldly nature. And of course, they want people to be in a relationship with them, so they don't want people to know that love maybe really isn't what drives and motivates them. And they could be up in a mental prison about love because you can get hurt doing love. It could be scary doing love. It challenges them in their philosophy of life where they like to live more from their mind and their heart. And so they're kind of defensive to not living more from their mind. Because then they would have to learn these lessons to... The Emperor is about having learned lessons, living your life being more like a King of Cups, and then a King of Swords, and then a King of Pentacles, and then a King of Wands. And I've maybe driven my life off into the ditch, letting my heart run my life. And then I could have let my mind run my life. And then I could have made my life all about the world. And then I could have made my life all about indulging myself. And we go out to these extremes in order to learn, oh shit, I shouldn't go to extremes, you know? And it's all about just learning how far is too far, right? And then hopefully if we learn all those lessons, as an emperor of our own life, we've learned, for one, that all four aspects of ourself are important. Because sometimes some people are like, no, I am more about the world and living more from my mind than my heart. I don't want to connect in with my emotions, maybe listen to my intuition. I might have done that before. It didn't work out the way I wanted. I got hurt. And so I'm not going to do that anymore. That can only lead to my getting hurt. And I don't think listening to my more emotional nature or intuitive nature is beneficial. I don't value it. I think maybe I'm pretty smart and I can just keep doing things the way I'm doing it. And I'm sure there's other people who view life like me and also could be in a mental prison about loving and believing in themselves or connecting in with their emotions more or living their... High vibe pages can be where you're living your more authentic life. You've kind of worked through the ego of life and you kind of just are in that hopeful, believing spirit. Have I learned all these lessons? Yeah. And because of it, I feel like I have learned these lessons that I'm not going to let myself go run my life off into the ditch anymore. because I've learned to be more balanced within myself. I've learned that if I let my heart kind of tip me out of balance, I'm indulging poor behavior in myself and others. If I let my mind and my fear run my life, then I'm tipped out of balance, doing more what's logical or practical or sitting in my fear and my insecurity. If I make my life too much about the world or my passionate nature, it's all these lessons I've learned. And I've learned to respect all aspects of myself. They're all equally important. I have to take them all into consideration. And I want to be in relationships with other people who have learned those lessons. And and the emperor can be a boss, male or female, and it can be anybody in a friendship or relationship dynamic where there was people we wanted to invest in. We wanted to get justice and balance, and we wanted to move forward with them. And we didn't want to repeat an old pattern of being in relationships, because Taurus energy of the Seven of Pentacles can represent all these different institutions of the world, workplaces, friendships, marriages, family dynamics, organizations, just kind of everything of the world that it's like. And Taurus can be about kind of controlling us in a way. Look how many Taurus is about all these different philosophies in life. Look at how more restricted some people are than other people. But the difference is, high vibe people adhere to a higher truth and justice. I'm not going to not go do this and not go do that because of what the world says more. I've made my own decisions in life. And I know what is more just and fair and balanced and aligned with my truth and what isn't. I don't have bad intentions. I'm not being reckless and selfish and all those things. I want to go out in the world and offer peace and love to people to work together with me in a just and fair and high vibe energy so we can give birth to something new. But there's so many people that are defensive to change, so they want to keep repeating old patterns over and over and over, and they kind of keep staying in their comfort zone and they never give birth to something new, which is fine. Everybody's free to live their life the way they want it. But there's going to be some people in their life that it's like, I find the way you live your life seems dead. You never give birth to anything new. It's kind of like unwilling because you have all these rules and regulations in your head that came from the world or your family or your community or your country, that you have to live your life like this. This is how you should live your life, and then we will view you as a leader in the world. But if you're like a boss, but if you're not in that hopeful, believing energy and treating other people with love and respect and treating them the way you like to be treated in a just and fair manner, then you're kind of a bad leader. Like, my truth is the truth. And if I live my life like this, you have to live your life like that. Well, they could also be quite angry in the world all their life because they're not the boss. I'm sure other people have thought it, but you grow up and you kind of learn about all these different people in the world and all these different religions and all these different things. You can't show your hair. You should have long hair. You should have short hair. You should be modest. You should wear clothes down to not show your ankles. God forbid you show your ankles. You should dance. You shouldn't dance. You should sing. You shouldn't sing. It's kind of a thing of circumstance, almost, of where we're born and the family we're born into and the communities we're born into and the states and countries we're born into. And do we let all those things kind of control us? And again, I think high vibe energy is adhering to a higher truth and justice. If you take action from a place of peace and truth and love, not being selfish and indulgent and, I don't know what the word, kind of like from a shadowy energy of indulgence in a way. like lust and greed and all that stuff. You're offering truth and love and justice and fairness to for people to be free to live their authentic life, but it has to be from a foundation of love. And if it is more, I'm in non-life giving energy, and the death card can be, if anyone has a different opinion than the way I live my life, I don't want them around. Because I'd rather hang out with people who view life the way I just view it, because then they don't require me to change. They're not changing. And then shadowy energy can kind of be living in this illusion. Look how just and fair and loving and stable and grounded and righteous we are. But they're not really in a spirit of shadowy hierophant. Can be, I like to present myself as this pillar of society. Look how wonderful I am. But unwilling to change. Part of life, high vibe energy represented by God at the big picture, is trying to give birth to new things. We were meant to learn all these lessons in life. We were cave people one day. If everybody had acted like this, we never would have gotten out of the caveman age. But luckily, some people are like, I have an idea. I think there's different things we could do. And, life changed. And some people are like, I don't like change. And, well, I tell you, I'm glad we got indoor lights, indoor plumbing, indoor air conditioning. I'm glad that we have airplanes. I'm glad that we have heart surgery. I'm glad that we came up with medicines and vaccinations to eliminate certain diseases in the world. Life is about change. It's learning what are the good building blocks to take with us. And that's like the Seven of Pentacles. And that's what some people are looking at right now. What things are the good building blocks to take with me? And what are some of the building blocks that I thought were good building blocks, but I have learned that those things don't get me what I want. If I am more stubborn, more prideful, more bossy, more controlling, more fearful, more insecure, it's not moving my life forward. If I have unresolved pain and heartbreak that I haven't dealt with, how about I offer love to it? How about I offer love to all the people in my past that I could have known that hadn't done this work within themselves to heal from their own past pain and heartbreak and their own self-limiting beliefs and their bossy nature and their controlling nature, to deal with the truth of it, because the truth transforms our life. And that's what high vibe Scorpio of the death card talks about. We see the truth. There are things that we need to work through, learn the lessons about, be willing to incorporate those lessons into our philosophy of life. Quit being so stubborn, thinking, I don't have any lessons to learn. And see that we've seen that some things should be let go of because they're not conducive to moving forward and giving birth to anything new and having that more hopeful, believing spirit and having more hopeful, believing, loving, encouraging people in our life. Some people keep having people leave them, but they refuse to see the truth that they're maybe kind of more about themselves, kind of stubborn, kind of defensive, maybe kind of intimidating, controlling, because they have these issues that kind of imprison them, that instead of dealing with it, they just try to get other people to move forward with them and do it the way they want. And then they don't have to deal with those issues that imprison them. And the difference between the Eight of Wands and the Three of Wands, or the Eight of Swords and the Three of Swords, is the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords is Aquarius energy, and it's also represented by the Star card, that we have this way of viewing life. And we can all have our idea of how we wanted things to go. But it's not just about us and how we wanted things to go. We're dealing with other human beings, and they've got their own issues, and they have their own dreams, and they have their own issues to deal with. And, there could even be children that have been in families and currently are in families. They could be grown adults now. But is still like, well, I wanted it the way it was. And I'm sad and I want it to do it that way. And I'm going to try to stop people from moving forward in their life. And it's like, you can keep doing that if you want, but we all got to get out of our ego that we don't control things. You know, we kind of go with the flow. We could have been in situations where everybody could have wanted things to work out, but maybe one person was more defensive to having that more hopeful, believing spirit. What their truth was, how they wanted to live their life was different. Some people still wanted to repeat an old pattern or stay in their comfort zone. Other people were ready to kind of move forward in life differently. It's kind of like, again, just like in school, you know, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. If you were to look at life as first grade through 12th grade, all the spectrum of all the different things you could learn during your life, if you're willing to, if you're even inspired to want to go pursue some of those things, and you don't have to. Some people are like, I'm happy being in what would be the equivalent to sixth grade, the average, the norm. I'm good with that. There's going to be people who are like, I'm good with grade 1 through 5. And other people, you know, that some people could maybe view as more overachievers, more talent, more skill, more bright, or just more bold, brave, and confident, might do the 7th through 12th, you know? And we accept that people are where they're at. I'm not going to keep trying to change someone. If they want to live their life a certain way, they have the free will to live their life that way. I could have came to a place of peace about it. If I had someone who was always trying to get me to live my life different, more high vibe or more shadowy, and that wasn't my truth, you know, we all have free will. Who wants to be in relationships with people who are trying to change them? A lot of times, though, we can get in relationships with people and then we think we can change them or we think they will change. And those people could think that you'll just give up on your dreams and you'll keep being defensive to change and defensive of leaving. And then, you know, basically you kind of give up your dreams to live your life like they want to live it. And wouldn't it be better if both people kind of went and lived their life the way they authentically wanted to go live it? And then other people can decide for themselves, is this more how I want to live my life? Or is this more how? Or is that more how? And again, you know, so people who are in a shadowy energy don't have to be bad people. It's just, it's more their comfort zone. Some people are more willing to step out of their comfort zone, have a little more hope and faith and belief to be more creative, inspired, to believe in their dreams. And other people are like, why? I'm happy and good the way I am. I look like a boss. I got it going on. Why would I want to leave this? And I just, you know, and we just accept that people are where they're at. And some people have come to peace about it and have moved on. But there can always be some people that really don't like change for some reason. Let's go look at these two cards up here that aren't showing themselves. The Seven of Swords and the Lover's card. Again, we're kind of more inspired by the world. Up here we have the Seven of Swords. Like the difference here is the Five of Swords. The 5, the 6, and the 7 are Aquarius energy. We can all be a little bit more in our South Node and kind of more about these things of the world. And we really, you know, we have life experience to gain to look at life from different perspectives or a higher perspective. We're pretty caught up in these things of the world. And part of a lesson in life is learning to work through those things that kind of have us in a mental prison about maybe shining our own authentic light in the world, or wondering if we do really have our own unique gifts and talents, or to even love ourselves. And shadowy energy can be that we are more in codependent energy and we're kind of looking to other people to love us and feeling like we can't manifest our dreams if we don't work with these things of the world. And so then in shadowy Seven of Swords, we previously could have been kind of a little bit more up in our head, and we could have had some unresolved pain and heartbreak, and we could have been a more codependent energy. And then sometimes there's other people in the world who might have more of these things of the world. Maybe they seem more stable, more grounded, more power, more influence. Or we could just be caught up in looks and things like that. And we want to look like, because we're kind of in our ego a certain way. And if we get in a relationship with someone who seems to have these things that other people look to them as someone that would be worth investing in, sometimes we can be distracted by those things, right? And, love of our own inner child nature, because we were looking more outside of ourselves than transforming ourselves. We were looking to maybe change other people. And we didn't maybe want to see the truth about people. And we can get in friendships and relationships with some people, and we're thinking everybody's going to work through their mental conflict and their fears and their insecurities and their self-limiting beliefs and their more ego nature, more about themself nature, to move forward in a more hopeful, believing nature. But as time goes by, some people are really defensive to that, because they would have to put an end to being more in a mental prison about being about themselves or about the world or their past pain and heartbreak or fear of love. And they would have to work through and offer love to those things to work through that mental conflict. And from the Seven of Swords down to the Three of Swords is the Four of Swords, which is Libra energy. We have to heal, and we have to see the truth and be willing to deal with the truth, because the truth sets us free. But we have to want to even reflect on the truth. We have to be willing to want to deal with the truth. Am I kind of bossy and controlling? Am I kind of more egotistical or manipulative or immature than I like to admit? Well, if some people even start to go there right away, their defensive nature will kick up, and it's like, we are not going to change. We can control this. This will go the way we want. And because of that, and they weren't willing to do love, some other people saw the truth of it, and they didn't want to stay feeling stuck in a relationship with someone where their idea of what they thought was just and fair was different. And the high vibe people offered love to the situation and truth. If I offer truth and love, and I'm loving and encouraging and supportive, and that isn't enough, then I need to see the truth. That's not how they want to live their life. That's not what they want to invest their time, energy, and effort into. It isn't what drives and motivates them. So then I have to get out of being in denial of the truth, and I need to get out of my own mental prison. From the 1 to the 8 is the Seven of Swords. I need to work through this philosophy of life I had. I thought everybody would be motivated and inspired by love. I thought if I met someone and I was loving and encouraging and I loved them, of course they'd choose love. Of course they'd do that work. Of course they'd grow up. Of course they'd get out of their ego. Of course they'd get out of their defensive nature, or their more materialistic or their more immature nature. But some people, that was the dream relationship just the way it was. This works for me. You be loving and encouraging and supportive. I'm going to keep being defensive to change. You keep being loving and encouraging. I'll keep investing in it as long as you keep doing that. Now, if you ever work through your own mental confusion about seeing the truth of the situation, and you decide that you're not going to keep being loving and encouraging to me being in this energy, and you decide to leave, I might hide that I'm kind of in a mental prison about it, but I'm not willing to do that. So I guess the relationship is over. And you're going to move on, maybe going to go try to change someone else, or hopefully go find someone who's more on the same page as you. And they made their free will choice to keep defending, choosing to want to keep their more emotionally intuitive, creative, inspired nature maybe buried beneath the surface, and living maybe more from their mind than their heart, and trying to control things, and looking for someone who's kind of more on the same page as them. And they might have other people then that they get in relationships with that want them to move forward in a relationship with them, because it would be a good investment. It would look like they have justice in the world. It would make them look like a boss. It would look like they've gotten over the past, they've healed, they've moved on. But it, you know, with Libra also being represented by the Two of Swords, they can always struggle with, well, I can't decide what I want to do. And some of those people have had loving people move on from them. Some of them have had people that were more on the same page as them move on. And they're sitting here, still can't figure out what their truth is. Can't make a decision about what they love. If they get in relationships with the loving people, that can seem great until those people want them to be more warm and authentic and out of their more shadowy nature, to be more balanced. Well, then they got a problem with it. And then they go get in relationships with people who might be more like themselves, or more about the world, or more about indulging in things to feel better, or ego, or whatever. But then that can seem kind of a little superficial and shallow, and they're in a relationship with someone else who isn't really motivated and inspired by love. And then they kind of want to go back and be with loving people. And then they kind of want to go back with people that are more about, and it's constantly going back and forth. They can't ever finish out a cycle for some. Because if you were to get to the Ten of Swords in high vibe, where you work through those last two truths, why do I have such a problem picking one or the other? Can't decide which one would be a better investment. Well, quit living more from your mind than your heart, and listen to your soul. But it's like, well, I would like to be with the loving people, but are we going to have the money and the status and the ego and the image? Are they going to require me to keep maintaining balance within myself? I kind of like hanging out with people that don't require me to be balanced, and I can be more immature or bossy or controlling or manipulative or whatever. So then some of them just can't ever make a decision. And some other people let go from the Eight of Swords to the Seven of Swords. They saw the truth. I can't keep, if you're 8 swords up in your head, again, it's those last 2 swords, and the last 2 swords can be where it makes you feel stuck. And because they're stuck and they can't decide, they get in relationships with other people and they want them to be stuck also. Let's both stay stuck. I can't decide, you can't decide. Let's just keep basically moving forward with things the way they are. But the high vibe people are like, this causes me mental conflict. I don't like staying stuck. And I've already seen the truth that you seem to be defensive to change. I don't want to keep moving forward in something where I feel like it's superficial, shallow, people being defensive, people being intimidating, controlling, bossy, more materialistically driven, or immature, or whatever. And I accept that truth, even though I could be sad and heartbroken about it. But I believe in love, and I'm going to offer love to the situation so I can heal and get more balance between my mind and my heart about the situation. And I accept that you have your issues or your way of viewing life. And I've seen that's not my truth. In my Gemini energy, my truth is I do have a more hopeful, believing spirit, and you might not. And I do want to be in a relationship with people who are more like that. And you might also be acting this way because you want me to leave, because you'd like to be in relationships with people who are more like you. And so then the high vibe people, though, heal. And they learn the lesson they were meant to learn from it. I don't want to repeat that pattern. I take the lesson I learned from it. So as I move forward, now I do listen more to my intuition, and I now know that though I can be really motivated and have hope and faith and belief and love, other people don't. For every person on this side of the spectrum of duality, there's equally someone on this side that is the opposite of it. And sometimes we can get in relationships with people who they know their truth isn't your truth, but you don't know that. And as long as you don't know it, they'll get in the relationship with you, but it's kind of like to indulge themselves in the relationship. Some of the people didn't know if they would be willing to do love. And when they were in the relationship, their high vibe energy was trying to tell them you should work through these issues and your defensiveness or whatever and free yourself to move forward with these people. But their more defensive nature said, no, we could get hurt doing that. What if we got hurt? Then we'd be in a mental prison. Who are people who are more afraid of getting hurt? People, I guess, who don't think they can heal and pick themselves back up, or it be such a blow to their ego. I'd rather stay in a relationship with someone who's defensive and bitchy and unloving and unkind and bossy and controlling. Because if I really love someone and it didn't work out, maybe I'm just too much in my ego to even have that happen. What if I really were loving and then somebody rejected me? I would take that so personally, which we all can. Other people have more experience in relationships. And it's like, I don't have to take it so personally. I can look at my own relationships and why I didn't want to keep staying in relationships with certain people. And sometimes you kind of drift apart. Sometimes people kind of drift off in the ditch and are kind of get in these more immature or bossy or whatever ways. And, high vibe people offer love to it to keep moving on. And some people just aren't even willing to take the chance. That'd be a blow to my ego. I'll go invest in someone who I think is defensive, who is fearful, who isn't going to go anywhere and give birth to anything, but they'll stay in a relationship with me. They will not leave. And if some people, the most important thing is to have someone who stays in a relationship with them because they will never leave and they will never take a blow to their ego, they'll stay in kind of a, if that's the most important thing to them, that's why they would stay in relationships like that. And some people could wonder, why the hell are these people staying in relationships like this? And they just don't understand it. It's like, well, they're never going to leave, and that's the most important thing. But they could be bossy, they could be controlling, they could be, don't put any work and effort, don't seem to really give a damn about you, or are on you all the time, nagging at you, or dogging on you, or being abusive to you. Yeah, but they're never going to leave. Okay. Teach your own. There are consequences to our decisions, and everybody has to keep deciding, am I going to keep investing in it? Some people have things that manipulate them, and people in their life, their ego, they're unwilling to stand up for themselves. We have to stand up to our own shadowy nature, our own deceptive nature, our own fearful nature. We have to let our more hopeful, believing, loving nature get in the driver's seat of our life. To let our more loving nature and our more mature nature run our life and align with and invest our time, energy, and effort into people who are a more high vibe and loving and encouraging and making good decisions in their life if we want to change our life. But some people, maybe because of other people in their life, or what would people say, what would people think, I can't go live my more authentic life. Or if I do that, those people will be mad, or those people will go get in a different relationship. Maybe that would put me in my ego if I left someone, but they could be someone that other people would really like to be in a relationship with. That would get me in my ego. So I'll just keep staying in it and arguing with them. It's like, if there's someone who you have to argue with, odds are the next person is going to have to argue with them also. Well, I mean, none of us have to argue with people, but if we feel like people are stubborn or bossy or intimidating, controlling, whatever, people don't change overnight. They can try to wear a false persona when they get in the next relationship, but if you know the truth of who they are, the truth of who they are is going to reveal itself in the next relationship. But we can always be afraid, in a way, like afraid that if we just give them more time, they'll change. And it's like, well, how about until you change, I'm going to go live my life and enjoy my life, not being in this environment. And I guess if you don't ever grow up or heal or mature yourself, or temper your fears or your insecurities and eventually communicate that with me, well, then I guess you never were going to become. And while I'm going and in a more uplifting environment, I'll let you do what you're going to do. High vibe people also apologize to people. We all have made these decisions in our life not to invest more time, energy, and effort into certain friendships or get in certain relationships or get out of certain friendships or relationships, because we all had our own way of viewing life at any given moment. And other people could have had a different view of life and they moved on without us. And at different times, we've kind of moved on from people. High vibe people get out of their ego about it. When you learn the lesson and you get over like any shame you might have had about it, and you're end up to a place where I'm happy for the whole life experience because it taught me some valuable lessons and that I wasn't seeing the truth of. And then they're willing to reach out to people to tell them, sorry if I hurt your feelings, sorry that I didn't invest more time and energy. I kind of had these issues I maybe didn't even know I needed to work through until I kind of, with some of the people that I was hanging out with. And some of those people that we reach out to, we could now kind of be further along in the road of life than some of them. And they're like, oh shit, I was always hoping you'd get out of that relationship. But now that you did, I really am kind of in that. And I just wanted it to be me that you were in a friendship with or a relationship with. But I'm also kind of in that energy. And then when you reach out and you tell me how you've worked through your mental conflict and you look at life from a higher perspective, it's like, shit. And of course they don't want to say that. Well, I don't really view life like that either. I kind of viewed life like this. I just wanted to be the person that you were in the relationship with. But you got in a relationship with those people. And was I sad and was I heartbroken? Yeah, but... Or some of them, instead of them moving forward, they kind of maybe got themselves in something. And sometimes some people in our life are people who are more on the same page as us, but we all had our own life experiences to learn lessons from. We kind of part ways, and it is possible at future points in time we can come back together again because we were people who had more hope and faith and belief and love. But if we hadn't learned to love ourselves, we can reject the loving people in our life, and our comfort zone could be to where we're just trying to make other people love and believe in themselves. Like, oh no, not me. No, I'm a loving person, but I don't really let people love me. I love these people over here that kind of reject me. Yeah, that's what I do. And that's a pattern people can be. And it's like, why don't I move forward with people who are more loving? And it's because then that challenges us to work through our own issues, to be in a more balanced relationship, and we're maybe not used to being in a more balanced relationship. And then when we kind of see the truth of it, it could be like, shit, there were some people in my past that I wasn't seeing the truth of. And now I might reach out to those people, tell them the lessons I've learned, and now I'm moving forward in life differently, wondering where they're at, wondering if they want to move forward with me, and just people in my life, wishing people peace and love in my life, but this is my truth and this is how I'm moving forward. Who wants to come with? Some people will, some people won't. Some people are doing work within themselves too, to work through their issues, to work together with you in that way. Other people that you meet could be the person who's right for you is someone that you're going to meet in your future. And they're kind of in the same situation like you to a degree, and you might not even know them yet. That's where we have faith that God wants people to be in just and fair and balanced relationships. But we have to quit investing our time, energy, and effort into the people who we see are not on the same page as us. Wish them peace. You do you. Hope it works out. I've been there. I've lived my life maybe like that. I may have been more immature, more caught up in the world. Everybody's got to learn lessons the hard way. And you might be one just like maybe I was one. And I'm not going to stay up in a mental prison about it. I'm going to let you do you because I see the truth that we're kind of not on the same page. And if I had been thinking maybe a dream could come into reality, I'm not going to deceive myself about it. As long as you're in a little more shadowy energy, the dream isn't going to come into reality. So high vibe energy has worked through their shadow nature to make good decisions in their life. They're wishing people peace and love, but they're maintaining balance within themselves. And that if people want to keep moving forward with them, they have to be more balanced and treat other people in a just and fair way. And if they're not willing to do that, and they choose to keep repeating an old pattern, then that's fine. You do you, and I'm going to do me. So what's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Libra energy? Moving forward with the people in their life who are working together with them in a more just and fair and authentic and loving and balanced way. The Lover's card and the 10 and the Tower. Why? Because of the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands, like the Emperor, is Aries energy, and it can talk about the foundation of self that you operate from. And because you were inspired to love yourself in the Lover's card and align with in Gemini energy with your more hopeful, believing, loving nature, the Tower talks about you've detached from an old foundation where you might have been more caught up in being more inspired by yourself and the world and your ego and all those things. Some of you could have been dealing, you could have been in relationships with people who harnessed a more to their own degree of shadowy Aries energy of self because you, to some degree, had your own more shadowy Aries energy you were harnessing. And when you learn to love yourself, your whole foundation changes. And then the Tower can represent that you've detached from a way of living life and viewing life. You've detached from certain people in your life. You're no longer more deceived in your more loving nature, which if you are a very loving, nurturing person, there's people who could deceive and manipulate you, kind of use your loving nature against you to manipulate you. And it's like, that's not love. That's a deceptive love. People who love me don't try to control me, be bossy or deceptive or manipulative or not want me to heal and grow and mature myself. People who love me want me to grow to my full potential, want me to love and believe in myself, want me to feel balanced and inspired in myself. And the people who don't are people probably who don't either. And all I can do is offer you peace and love. But if you keep being defensive to working together with me in a just and fair way, then I don't want to be in a foundation with you. And then the Four of Wands can represent a job, a friendship, an organization, some type of relationship where you were working together with others. And because you love yourself, you're not willing to hide from the truth. You are willing to emotionally detach from people. And that can really be a shock to some people because we can indulge people in their poor behavior for quite a long time. And so then they keep thinking, see, I don't have to change because this person keeps loving me and keeps letting me break their heart and, keeps being defensive to leaving. So I don't have to change because they kind of keep indulging me in my poor behavior. And whether it's a boss or a friend or a family member, when you do leave, yeah, that's a shock. What? I didn't think you were going to leave. Well, I did. Eventually, people can be patient with people for a long time, and eventually it's like, I'm done. I'm no longer in denial of the truth that you're not just and fair. You aren't loving. You are immature or bossy or controlling or something. And they move on. And then the other people, because they don't want to see the truth, and also because they might have some poor coping skills, because they haven't learned that love is the answer. So odds are they're going to go invest in repeating an old pattern. Being kind of deceptive and manipulative about why that relationship didn't work out. Trying to confuse other people about the truth. No, no, no. No, don't, no. See, it's like here, if there's other people in the world kind of wondering who they think is a good leader in the world, they're like, no, 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 don't go with those people. No, 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 you stay here. You should love me. You should align with me. Those people broke my heart. Those people, they don't want people to see the truth that some people harness a little more high vibrational Libra energy than they do. But they might like to think that everything they do is just and fair. And if people don't indulge them in their immature egoic nature, then those people are bad. That's like shadowy Scorpio. But some people are very full of themselves. They indulge themselves. They don't want to change. They think other people should indulge them and not want to change. They could think they're the center of their universe. Everybody else should make them the center of their universe. And other people are like, you know what? I'm going to let you go. I might have love for you, but as long as we've all had friends and family members, right? Where it's kind of like we don't really hang out with them much. Can we love them? Can we see them at Christmas? Can we all get along fine? But would I want to hang out with you on a regular basis? No. Do they want to hang out with me? No. We're different. And that's okay. The only when it's really more of a problem is if it is someone that we kind of had a deep emotional relationship with and we had a dream of moving forward with them because we do have love for them and we'd like us all to get along in a more just and fair manner, then it's harder, but it's just like anybody you would treat. It's like, just because you're family or just because I love you, why should I indulge you more in your poor behavior when I wouldn't indulge that in people in a workplace, But Scorpio can talk about it. It's hard to work through it because we are these emotionally complex human beings. But again, some people really don't invest emotionally much in people. And so they're hoping because of your emotionally complex, loving nature, it will keep you entangled with them. But if you were to go, they would probably have no problem throwing you under the bus, telling lies about you, trying to manipulate other people to view you in a negative light and go indulge themselves in something else to feel better. Because some of them really think it should just be all about them. So I think you're going to have new beginnings. You could be shocked at who are some of the people in your life who do this work within themselves. You could be shocked that you meet someone who is really more on the same page as you. Also, another thing is that sometimes when we offer peace and love to people, and we've been offering them peace and love to work cooperatively with them, some of those people will go kind of shadowy Scorpio on them, scorched earth. If you're not going to indulge me, then I've decided I want to win at all costs. That's the Five of Swords. If you've seen the truth of me, how dare you see through the illusion of who I am? How dare you not buy into the illusion of who I think I am? How dare you try to make me see through the illusion of who I think I am? And I'm going to try to tear you down because I don't like that you love yourself. And that's when people could also be surprised and hurt that some of the people that they were putting all this work and effort into kind of like don't give a damn. They hope your whole foundation crumbles. They hope you drive your life off into the ditch so that by default they can move forward and look like these immature people can look like they're the more authentic, stable, grounded person. But they do these really hurtful and defensive and unkind and unjust and maybe slanderous things, all in an attempt to control you. And if it doesn't control you, then they don't really give a damn. If it hurts you so bad, you drive your life off into the ditch. Because then they'll look like the boss in the world. And for some people, you've already kind of done that when you were younger. You know, kind of invested in your more immature ways of coping. And you learned lessons that I shouldn't do that again. And I'm not going to let that happen again. And I'm going to maintain myself. And I'm going to not repeat some poor past patterns. And I am going to make good decisions. And I'm going to stay in that more hopeful, believing spirit. And I'm not going to let someone, especially someone who's being hurtful and unkind and unjust and unfair, is not going to destabilize the foundation I've built for myself. And just by you moving forward in that way, the tower can be also that people see the truth of who you are, and they kind of see through the illusion of some other people who try to make them think differently of you. And then some of those people could be moving on. And those people now could be hiding there in a mental prison because it didn't all work out because they thought they were so smart and they could control and manipulate everything that they thought it would all go in their favor. It's just like if you work somewhere and there's a supervisor or a manager of a department that's petty and immature and bossy and controlling and egotistical and all those things. And people kind of keep leaving and they're like, no, those people, blah, 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 blah. But it keeps happening, Eventually the other people at the company, even though for a long time they could have defended this person, eventually there might come a time where they're like, we wish you peace, but, we're not sure what it is, but we're kind of thinking with things that everybody has said that we kind of think we're going to move on without you. And then those people are like, what? They saw through the illusion? It wasn't the people who left that was a problem. It was the person they kept that was the problem. And that's where, people who do this in friend groups and family dynamics, some people align and defend those people. And then later it's like, wait a minute, I thought you said that they were this and this type of person and blah, blah, blah. And they seem to be this kind of person. And then I've seen you been doing this and this. I kind of think you weren't telling the truth. And I've kind of been defending the wrong person. What's coming up for the shadowy people? The Queen of Wands, the Two of Cups, and the Page of Swords. Why? Because of the Wheel of Fortune. What they don't see coming is that they don't control the world in a way. The Wheel of Fate is that, things keep changing. Some people, they want to stay in a time warp. I don't want things to change. I want people to live like they did in the 1960s, and I want women to act that way, and men to act that way, and children to act that way, and businesses to act that way. But the thing is, it's about adapting to change and learning lessons. And as we all are, if we're all willing to kind of learn these lessons and grow and heal and mature ourselves, hopefully we'll create something better. Like, I think now is better than caveman days. And I do think in the long run, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years from now will be better than today. Because I think there's always going to be more shadowy people in the world, but there's always going to be more hopeful, believing, loving, inspiring people in the world that are not willing, even though, we can all love life the way it is. It's like back in the day when somebody came up with the idea that we should quit peeing in our cave or right outside of our door, that I think I could build a thing and then we'd have it at a slope and then we can go to the bathroom there and every morning we can pour water in it and it carries it far away. It's like, well, there would have been some people like, that's bad. And the other people did it, even though they love those people. You do you. How about I get to go do me? And you stay in your cave where you keep peeing in the floor. Right there. And I'm going to build my tunnel. And you can do what you want to do. But there's always going to be more inspiring people in the world. What they don't see coming is there's always going to be more hopeful, believing people in their life that could have been loving and encouraging to them. The queens can talk about how people think and feel, and the Queen of Wands can be someone, male or female, who's been emotionally loving and encouraging, who wants to move forward with these people, who kind of have that hopeful, believing spirit. But eventually, as time keeps going by, and the high vibe people in their life are harnessing this energy in a high vibe way, and the more worldly, shadowy people are harnessing it in a more shadowy way, the more shadowy people keep trying to manipulate the people in their life who love them. And just their own inner child nature of the hopeful, believing people are like, I can't keep doing this. It hurts me. In my ego, I wanted to stay in the relationship maybe because I was more codependent or because I just love you or something, or this seems to be aligned with my truth. I had a dream. I wanted to be, to look this way or whatever. But eventually, even those people kind of become defensive to them because they want things to change with the Wheel of Fortune. They want things to move forward. And some people are like, no, if you want to be in a relationship, we're staying right here and nothing is going to change. This is my comfort zone. This is how I want to do it. And eventually some other people move on. And eventually they're going to end up in relationships with people who are like them, which they might not be happy about. Because even shadowy people like to be in relationships with loving people. Because it's great to be in relationships with people who are more tempered in their ego, who are more balanced, who aren't being petty and immature and bossy and controlling, who are being loving and encouraging and supportive. But they'll probably end up in a relationship where they'll be telling other people in their life that they need to change. But when they were in relationships with people, they weren't willing to detach from any old ways of being. And they'll probably be in relationships with other people who don't want to detach from any old ways of being. And sometimes it can be like friends and family members. Like, I don't love and believe in myself to become independent of these people that I love. And if they keep living their life this way, I'm not going to move forward in life differently because I'm codependent on them. But they could want those people to change. But people in our life can be reflective of our more shadowy nature. And we have to see the truth of it. That they could be in our life to try to illuminate that this is an issue within us and it really doesn't have anything to do with them, except for our more codependent nature. And high vibe energy is about being more independent and detaching from some foundations in our life. We can wish other people would move forward with us, but are we willing to move forward and wish them peace and go live our authentic truth, because our truth can be different than their truth. How they want to live their life is different than how we live our life. But some of them might be afraid that if they were to go live their own authentic life, that those people would be mad and wouldn't want to have anything to do with them and would be more emotionally cold to them. It's like, well, that is someone who's trying to manipulate you. And they could have been hiding. Yes, I have people in my life who try to manipulate and control me. And because I'm more codependent on them, I let them do that. It's like, well, so long as that is your issue, and if I keep staying in a relationship with you by just being in a relationship with you, whatever manipulates you kind of manipulates me. But those things and those people don't manipulate me. They don't have that kind of hold on me, but they do on you. And it kind of keeps me stuck. And I'm not going to stay stuck. And I'm going to show you how people who can have love for someone keeps their distance from people. And then you have the free will choice to keep aligning with them or not. And if you keep choosing to align with them, then you have made your free will choice, and I'm going to move on. That is being kind of a good leader in the world. If you have these things that manipulate you, your pride, your ego, your fear, your insecurity, your defensive nature, other people in your life, I need to be in a relationship with someone who's more independent, and you're not. I want to be free to live my authentic life, and I need to be in relationships with people who don't just love themselves, where it's just all about them, and I'm supposed to give up myself and my dreams to make my life all about you, because that's what some people are like too. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're going to have to find someone else to do that. And they might find someone who is more codependent, someone who is maybe more shadowy Leo, shadowy Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, can be, well, this would look like a good investment. Well, this would look like I've moved on. This would make me look like a boss. This person could shine bright in their way. They could look like they have status or ego or image. I'll get in a relationship with them. And that can be shadowy energy, where someone always has to be the more codependent person in the relationship, has to more indulge the other person in the relationship. High vibe relationships where it's not about the self. It's about two people, the Two of Wands coming together in the Four of Wands. Two people have a dream. And out of love for this common dream, it's not just more about just themselves. It's about both of them working together from love to detach from it being more about them, to move forward in this just and fair and hopeful, believing and loving way with each other. And if these people end up in a relationship with someone who's more like themselves, that is a just and fair relationship, because they're not trying to manipulate someone who's not aligned in their truth. But they'll find out they're repeating an old pattern, which could be why they are the way they are to begin with. Being in relationships out of their codependency, they try to control loving people, and they end up back in relationships with other people who maybe are controlling of them. And it's like, and for some people, that's their comfort zone. Have you ever known people where they get in relationships with people who are like really controlling and bossy or whatever? It's like, why would you stay in relationships with people like that? And again, that can just be their comfort zone. I'm used to dealing with people who are like that. If I deal with more hopeful, believing, loving people, that is weird. I don't even know how to deal with those people. I don't even know how to act. And so then it helps them stay in their comfort zone. It's just that they won't grow to their full potential. Could they look very victorious and successful in the world and have those things of the world that they make their life about? Yeah. It's just that it's more about maybe ego and immaturity than being inspired by truth and love. So there you go, Libra. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.